I'd like to welcome you all to the roundtable of March 25th, 2022. God, it's good to be back. I want to start with a lesson and a story. 40 years ago, 40 plus years ago when I started this business, I looked around for help. I read every self-help book you can get your hands on. And most of them were crap. They were worth nothing. But there was one writer got my attention. His name was Wayne Dyer. Who knows the name? Raise your hand. Everybody in the room, except for the really young guys. Wayne Dyer was the original self-help, New Age guru. And honestly, for me, a little bit too New Age, a little bit too spiritual for the practicality that I wanted at that time. But one day he gave an interview on television. And this interview got me. And it got me thinking about the things that would make me a success in business. And he wasn't speaking about the Tao as he does, or Eastern religions as he does. Speaking about a story about his youngest daughter, Sage. She was in 5th grade at the time. One day she got to school, went to gym class, and suddenly discovered she forgot to wear underwear. She couldn't participate in gym. Easy enough, simple enough, right? But the gym teacher sent her to the principal. And the principal is, how do we put this? Someone who likes to abuse his position power. Everyone knows someone like this? Mm-hmm. We have a word on Wall Street. We call them assholes. So, he heard the story from this young girl, 9, 10 years old. He looked at her sternly and he said, "Young lady, this is going in your permanent file." And she went, "Permanent file?" Harvard just went down the toilet because she forgot to wear underwear to gym class. Well, she started crying her eyes out, bolted out of the office, bolted out of the school, and ran to her world-famous father 2 blocks away. And as I heard this story, I remember thinking, what would I tell my daughter? What advice would I give her to something like this? And I have to tell you, the advice Wayne Dyer gave her is the most brilliant advice I've ever heard in my entire life. As she unfolded the story and she got to the point of, "This is going on my permanent file," she burst out in tears again, and her father stopped her and said, "Honey, if you're going to live the kind of life where you'll be remembered 100 years after you're dead, if you're going to live the kind of life where they'll remember you for your life and you will have meaning and purpose every minute of your life, if you're going to live the kind of life that changes the world, then, honey, you're going to have a really thick file." Bravo, Wayne Dyer, because that is the greatest truth I've ever heard. You want to succeed, you're going to step on toes. You want to succeed, you're going to be lonely. You want to succeed, you're going to piss people off again and again and again. So what? At the end of your life, if you have a really thick file, believe me, you've made a difference. Ed Johns and Al Liebl, I'm going to pronounce your name correctly.
You got it right.
Right, but I'll miss it before we're over. They spent their lives building really thick files. They started a company called Anychain software. And this started about 10 years ago when they were working for companies like Splunk and Meta and Microsoft. And they were the co-founders of the Proteus Converged Systems and the founders of the Protean Credential. These are accomplished, well-taught, well-pursued, well-purposed guys out there. But they saw a problem, a big problem. They saw blockchain, Web3, come to the floor. And they realized, wait a minute, this is too complex for most people to understand and trust. And why do I know that? Well, I have two clients whose money is sitting right now in a crypto wallet, and they can't remember the password. Millions of dollars of bitcoins lost. They can't remember the password. I have one whose crypto wallet was hacked. Millions of dollars lost 2 years ago. Money not returned yet. These two could probably tell you a million stories similar to that. So they went to work. And they went to work developing a digital custodian. Well, what does a digital custodian do? Well, it authenticates the owner. It keeps digital secrets. What do I mean by digital secrets? Passwords, logins. It guides the owner through complex transactions, and most important, it connects the owner to other owners. It connects the owner to Web3. It connects the owner to blockchain. It's a simple app that any moron can operate easily on their smartphone. No more lost crypto, no more hacked wallets. These guys did it by stepping on toes, pissing people off, breaking the rules, and every day of their lives trying to do something that no one else had the guts to do. I've known Ed for a long time. Very long time, Ed. I can tell you this is one of the most honorable people you'll ever meet. This is someone I've never had to verify a single word he ever said. He just has that kind of character. Ed, Al, get up here.
Thank you all for joining us today. So I'm Al Liebl. I'm the co-founder and CEO for Anychain Software Incorporated. This is Ed Johns, my co-founder. We've known each other since the late 90s and have worked together on and off ever since. I've got a few slides to go through, and then I've got a video to show and some more slides to get into, but I appreciate the time this morning, and let's go ahead and get started. So Ed is my co-founder. He and I have worked together at companies like NetIQ, Trigence, and now at Splunk. In addition, we had done Proteus Converged Systems, where we patented a new authentication technology that eliminates the large-scale data breaches, basically decentralizes all of the data and makes it impossible for someone to breach an organization entirely and grab all of that data. We also, as part of that, turned the authentication process into a one-time pad. And if you're not familiar with a one-time pad, from a spy perspective, it's kind of considered the height of security, where before you do anything, you exchange some keys, you exchange ciphers, and then you can securely communicate at least one time and know that no one is going to be able to intercept or understand what that message is. But you get that once. Well, we took authentication and turned it into a one-time pad, but if you successfully authenticate, we reset the pad. And what this does is it creates a dynamic system where after every time you authenticate, every time you do something, it looks different than it did the time before. So now there's a moving target if someone wants to actually hack your stuff and wants to try to get your private keys, get your passwords and things like that. There's a constant moving target that evolves with every use. So Ed and I developed and patented that technology, and that started 10 plus years ago. As part of our careers, we've both been involved in tech. Ed helped to open up Eastern Europe for Microsoft. We also worked together at NetIQ and had a lot of success there from a cybersecurity and kind of IT infrastructure monitoring perspective. He's held different individual contributor positions at places like Citibank, where he actually led, not individual contributor, but and not necessarily managerial, program management for financial applications with Citibank and their mobile platform. For me, I've had a little bit of a different path as well. Basically, I've worked at a variety of tech companies, places like NetIQ, If you remember the Meta Group, or if you're familiar with Gartner, the analyst organization, I was an analyst at the Meta Group covering the systems management tool space back in the mid-2000s. Done a number of startups where I've run professional services or product management. And I've had great success at places like Splunk. In 2019, for fiscal year 2019, I delivered 2.25% of the overall company revenue for that year, working with, at that time, I basically sold a lot of software to Amazon and AWS, helping them to do security investigations at scale. I also, from a security perspective, ran professional services for a company called Proximex. They're now part of Tyco, although I think the product has gone away. But what we did is for airports, seaports, corporate facilities, government facilities, military installations. If you've ever seen a Mission Impossible movie where they've got that one computer system that everything plugs into where you can control everything, I used to deploy that around the world, and I had a team of people that would deploy those types of systems. So I've had a unique perspective of seeing how organizations kind of do technology, how people use technology, and how to secure it. So the problem that we've run into is the complexity of Web3. And by Web3, we're really talking about decentralized services, blockchain, and kind of all the next generation technologies that are coming out. It's too complex for the average person. It's something that basically might require you to go to multiple different places to accomplish a simple task that you're looking to accomplish. And that's really slowing user adoption. And it also leaves a good chunk of the population out of this distributed, decentralized economy. It's almost like there's a technology literacy test now for participation in Web3 because you have to figure out technically how to do things before you can even try to do something functional. So I've got a video here that I want to play for you. And this provides some good background as to what we are doing.
Web3 and decentralized technologies offer fantastic promise, but they come with significant challenges. Foremost, you need a client, like a wallet, to connect to a blockchain. Where do you get this wallet? Who controls the wallet? What functionality do you get with the wallet? How is the wallet accessing the blockchain? Some browsers have built-in wallets. Wallet apps are also available on phones. Would you trust your life savings to two of the most attacked technologies? You could use a hardware wallet, but this is an awkward way to handle digital goods. Private keys secure digital assets on a blockchain. This is a great way to secure something. But do you know how to secure a private key? What do you do if you lose your private key? How do you back up a private key? How many unique 12-word seed phrases do you want to manage? Anychain has identified 4 major issues hindering the mass adoption of Web3. First, transacting on blockchains for the average person is complex. Buying new NFTs or tokens can feel overwhelming, often requiring a multi-step process across different websites, exchanges, and wallets. Centralized exchanges and hosted wallets attempt to solve this. This leads to the second issue, custody. Centralized exchanges and hosted wallets are easy to use, but they don't offer self-custody. You use their service. They control your assets and what you can do with them. This seems like the antithesis of the promise of Web3. It is not easy to perform self-custody. You must securely track and manage many wallets, seed phrases, and services. This is not easy for most people. Third comes transparency. Not the transparency of transactions in a public ledger. We are talking about API transparency. Is your service providing native blockchain API access? Are your transactions routed through third-party APIs? Moxie Marlinspike has a great blog post on this problem. The TLDR is that many Web3 services provide a walled garden experience and you are at their mercy. And what about extensibility? You may be screaming, wrong! You can build anything on blockchain. You are not wrong. Are you technical? Are you a skilled programmer? Do you have your own servers? Most people want to perform a limit order without writing code or owning servers. Anychain has examined these Web3 opportunities and challenges. This led us to design the Anychain Digital Custodian. It lets you connect, communicate, and transact with blockchains, services, and others on your terms from your phone. What is a digital custodian? It is a single-user service. It secures an owner's digital secrets, authenticates the owner when using those secrets. It allows the owner to automate their Web3 activities. So, what is a digital secret? Digital secrets are things like private keys, passwords, and certificates. This includes any personal data, like government IDs, you want to control. Anychain Digital Custodian is an owner's hub for all things Web3. The Digital Custodian offers everyone a simple, secure, and open experience with Web3. It has 4 design pillars: security, simplicity, transparency, and control. Anychain implements security via known best practices. We turned authentication into a one-time pad to end common identity attacks. The Digital Custodian is a single-user microtenant. It binds to the owner's mobile device so only the owner controls it. You hold your private keys as an encrypted blob on your phone. To use a key, you send the encrypted blob to your custodian. Only it can decrypt them, so they are never exposed on a vulnerable device. Your custodian is your single source for Web3 activity. This creates a secure user experience without requiring technical expertise. Simplicity comes from a mobile-first, activity-driven approach. People are comfortable using mobile apps to live their digital lives. The Digital Custodian builds upon that muscle memory. Anychain empowers owners with guides for common activities. Guides are individual actions chained together to achieve a desired outcome. Guides may be simple, like using a private key to access a Web3 service, or more complex workflows, like purchasing crypto with fiat currency from a centralized exchange, querying staking services for the best returns, and then transferring the crypto to the best staking option. Anychain makes Know Your Customer easy. Your custodian stores the data required for KYC. You then share that data with service providers when required. We are simplifying Web3. You can focus on what you want to do instead of figuring out how to do it. Anychain supports transparency in 2 ways. First, we are an open source project. The source code for the Digital Custodian is open for all to see, use, and improve upon. Second, guides execute in a public or private Anychain cloud. Guides define the actions or API calls performed. Every owner will know if their guides use native blockchain APIs or a third-party provider. You control your Digital Custodian as an owner, not a user. You own your digital assets and secrets. You decide where your custodian runs. You decide which cloud to use to execute your guides. Less technical owners can pay Anychain to host their custodians. Technical owners and businesses can deploy their own public or private Anychain cloud. Alice is a crypto asset advisor. She deploys her Anychain cloud for her customers. Alice's cloud includes her unique guides. She built them to carry out her investment strategies. If Bob wants to work with Alice, he can create a new digital custodian with Alice in her cloud. He can move an existing custodian to Alice's cloud from another cloud. He could even subscribe to Alice's guides in the Anychain public cloud. The result is Alice shares guides with Bob that execute her investment advice, and Bob has control over what advice he follows. Anychain is tackling big problems with a unique solution. We have big plans for owners. We will ensure Web3 is accessible and usable for everyone. We will deliver on the promise of decentralization. We are doing it with an open solution built for you. Digital custodians offer something for everyone. Experts get a powerful automation platform. They can create, share, or even sell complex strategies via guides. Novices get a simple and secure experience. They get guided activities based on best practices. Both groups enjoy the security and simplicity of the Anychain Digital Custodian. Please help us get the Digital Custodian built. You can join us on GitHub to contribute with code. With your help, we can build a simple, secure, and open Web3 experience for everyone.
For those of you not in the room and watching on video, the video is actually available via the Anychain website. So if you just go to anycha.in, you'd be able to watch the video there. And I'll also provide a copy of the video that we can plug in if that didn't come through well. So with the Digital Custodian, what we're looking to do is empower people to connect, communicate, and transact with any blockchain, any Web3 service, and any other owner on their terms from their phone. Essentially, we're an identity platform that provides automation, and we're applying that really around blockchain and Web3 to begin with, but it's applicable anywhere in life. Why do we see the Digital Custodian as the future of Web3 and blockchain? because it's a private micro-tenant. Basically, you don't have to have a big server. It's a small collection of data that comprises your digital secrets that we're enabling you to control and move and have the ultimate authority over what happens with that data. It's also your hub for anything Web3 or blockchain. Instead of having to go to a variety of different places to try to see what new tokens are available or what can I do with particular wallets and services, you'll be able to have one place to go to see different dApps that are available for the services that you use or the cryptos that you use. You'll have one place to go to be able to understand what can I add in terms of new blockchain or Web3 capabilities into my daily activities. And this is all predicated on a secure way to authenticate the owner and give them control over those digital secrets that basically doesn't jeopardize your private keys and those potentially millions of dollars of digital assets. So what does it do? Well, first and foremost, it authenticates the owner. It's how you basically authenticate yourself to any service out there. From an authentication standpoint, there's a couple of unique things that we do. First off, you get to choose how you're authenticated. You don't have to give me a password that has 3 question marks and a variety of letters and numbers. It's up to you to choose what you want to do. Now, all that authentication is done via your phone. So any I/O that you can do on your phone becomes a viable factor of authentication for how you authenticate yourself. My personal favorite is basically your own secret phrase. Think about it this way. We all have either quotes from movies or song lyrics that we like, but we usually all screw those up. There's that one word that's just not the way that they do it. That becomes the simplest way to authenticate yourself that no one's ever going to figure out because you're the only one who knows how you sing the song lyrics wrong or how you remember the movie wrong.
That's a really good point.
Simple, but easy and super secure. And generally, it's going to be a phrase that's going to be a couple words to a sentence long, which makes it longer than most passwords and much more difficult to understand. Now, in terms of securing those digital secrets, we're not doing anything crazy. We're relying on good best practices as it relates to encryption. I'm not smart enough or dumb enough to try to create my own encryption and cryptography, but using good, known, strong crypto algorithms now, we can basically ensure that your digital secrets are secure. And part of what we've done from a unique process standpoint is, once again, the credential, the way that you authenticate, actually holds those digital secrets. And there's a cryptographic wrapper. Basically, it's how it's encrypted. That cryptographic wrapper changes after each and every use. So your credential that contains all that data looks different at the end of a transaction than the beginning. And what that means is no one can steal that credential and then do something with it, either without you knowing about it, or they'll be prevented from doing something with it because the keys will have been rotated if you successfully authenticate and use your credential before they have a chance to. So what we're talking about is kind of this dynamic, we call it a protein system, where it's constantly changing, evolving with every transaction. Creates a moving target, which is especially difficult to deal with from a security standpoint if you're a hacker. Now, we're also connecting you with other owners and blockchains and services. This is really meant to be an automation platform that allows you to say, I want to focus on accomplishing this activity. What do I need to do that? Like, what guide can I use to baby step or Boy Scout march me through this process and make it nice and repeatable and consistent, instead of having to fat finger things or figure it out on your own. So those guides basically help you connect and walk you through the best practices process. And it's not limited to what we think is a best practice. We want you to be able to create your own guides and be able to either monetize those or just share those with the community if there's something interesting that you want to do or that you want to share. So you might be a technical person right now. You might be happy with the different wallets and things that you're using. Right now, I personally look at it as there's a technology literacy test for participation in Web3 or blockchain. Essentially, you have to be savvy enough to understand how to handle a wallet, how to secure a private key, and figure all of this stuff out before you even get to the point where you can buy a crypto or you can buy a Satoshi or something. That creates a high bar for most people. But outside of that, even if we say, okay, I'm happy with what I'm doing today, I'm a more technical person. Well, that guided trading, the ability to package up what you want to accomplish and either have that scheduled or automated in the background or sharing that with other people, that's quite powerful in terms of what you have the ability to do and how you can monetize any unique strategies that you come up with. And this applies not just to blockchain, but any Web3 service. So I've already talked a little bit about the digital custodian security. Just to give you kind of the big picture view. For the digital custodian and for the way that you authenticate yourself, we start out with what we call a protein credential. That protein credential, you can think of it just as that blob. Into that blob, we're going to place any of the digital secrets that you care about. Your passwords, your usernames, your private keys, any certificates, things like that. On top of that, you're going to provide some number of challenges and responses. Basically, how do I want to be authenticated? I could pick, let's say, Face ID or Touch ID from my phone. I could create a password. I can create those secret phrases. And I don't need to just create one. I can create 4 or 5 of them. But they're all going to be unique and easy for me to remember and things that I care about. From there, we package all of that up and place it in that blob, and then we pull a asymmetric key pair. Basically what that means, I've got a private key and a public key. I use the public key to encrypt it all, throw away the public key. I hand you back the encrypted blob, and then in your digital custodian, we secure the private key that decrypts that blob. When you want to use your credential, when you want to perform a transaction from your mobile device, you send that encrypted blob over to your digital custodian. It decrypts that credential using the challenge response information inside the credential. It basically says, okay, are you who you claim to be? Can you answer this challenge appropriately? If you successfully answer the challenge, it basically can remove or grab the properties or parameters inside of your credential that are needed, the private keys, the password, whatever identity data that might be required, and then use that as part of the transaction that you're trying to carry out. And at the same time, it grabs a new key pair, basically encrypts that blob with a new public key, throws away the public key, then stores that private key, sends you back the blob. So it constantly is evolving, and that allows us to store that data in a secure way that makes it incredibly difficult for someone to actually hack. And if someone does, off of your phone, these things aren't necessarily all that secure, but if someone does get your encrypted credential off the phone, the beauty of a protein credential system is there can be only one. Essentially, only one version of the credential is going to work at a time because it's only going to match to the private key. So that hacker has to successfully grab your credential off your phone, and they have to be able to successfully authenticate as you to your digital custodian in order for that private key to even potentially get released somewhere. And at the same time, if they successfully do that before you have a chance to use your credential again, you can immediately, when your authentication fails, because your credential would be out of sync, you can immediately say, you know what, I'm hitting the stop button. Basically, there's a concept in security of dwell time. How long does someone have access to your stuff? The dwell time with a protein credential and with a digital custodian is just the amount of time between you trying to use it. And if this is how you authenticate yourself and how you interact with different services, you'll be using it multiple times throughout the day. So that really creates a challenging situation for someone to hack and not have that hack at least get revealed with an opportunity to remediate sooner rather than later. Now, the deployment model that we're talking about, it's an open source project. You can deploy it however you want. There are 3 main ways that we envision people doing it. One is for businesses and organizations, so money managers or other financial institutions. They might want to run their own Anychain cloud to support their own customers and provide unique guides and services inside of that Anychain cloud to the users of their digital custodians. This basically gives you the ultimate in control and configuration because you can determine what you want to plug into. There's also a hybrid model where I can actually run my own digital custodian. I can put it on like a Raspberry Pi and have it at home and have it connect into the Anychain cloud where I can have those guides execute and have that API access, but my physical stuff sits in my home on my network with the ability to go out to the cloud and do what needs to be done. Or if I'm a non-technical user, I basically can subscribe to Anychain's public cloud. And in that public cloud, my digital custodian is hosted. Anychain doesn't have any access to your resources. We have no idea what you're doing in your digital custodian. We're just providing you with the computing infrastructure to be able to run that custodian and execute any activities and guides that you might want. From a competition standpoint, we're really we directly compete with traditional wallets, and this is just because we're securing digital secrets, and most wallets are really just securing a digital secret, for a particular crypto, or you might have a multi-currency wallet, but still, it's similar types of things. The difference is we're trying to make your digital secrets and your digital assets functional and usable as well as secure. Basically, from an automation standpoint, one of the challenges that I hear a lot of people talk about as it relates to crypto is there's such volatility in the crypto space. You've got large swings. Well, oftentimes, if you want to actually do some automated trading, if you want to say, okay, if the price goes below $40,000 for Bitcoin, I want to make some trades, you have to write a bot to do that yourself. You have to write some sort of automation, and it's somewhat error prone, and at the same time, somehow you got to get your private key to that bot to say, okay, I want to execute this trade. With a digital custodian, we can simplify that automation process while still keeping secure your digital secrets and the things that are most important to you, and that really are those crown jewels. We also indirectly kind of compete with password managers, so like LastPasses and things like that. We look at ourselves as kind of a next generation LastPass or Bitwarden, where it's not just about securing that digital secret, but it's about combining that with activities that allow you to automate tasks that improve your life or perform some benefit for you and your organization. And we are completely complementary with any digital ecosystem organizations, blockchains, Web3, distributed exchanges, centralized exchanges. Basically, we want to be an open solution that allows you to tie together the services that you care about, that you want to use, and consume them how you see fit, and give you the transparency to understand what that looks like. So what are we talking about in terms of monetization? Well, Anychain, because it's an open source project, anyone can get the software for free and deploy it, but there are a few twists. So first off, if you want to use the Anychain cloud, if you're doing that hybrid model, you've got your digital custodian on a Raspberry Pi sitting at home, well, you can buy basic access. That basically means you can use our APIs and the Anychain cloud to execute your strategies and your guides. And that really just allows you to have a nice, secure, and simple way to do that. Plus, gives you the ability to use the basic services, and in addition, there are some kind of value adds that Anychain provides above and beyond the standard open source project. In particular, there are a couple of things. One is we offer progressive authentication as part of that Plus repo. What is progressive authentication? Progressive authentication allows you to set thresholds that say, you know what? If it's a $1,000 trade, 1 factor of authentication. If it's a $25,000 trade, 2 factors of authentication. If it's a $1 million trade, I want 5 factors of authentication because I want to really make sure that the person doing this, or me, that this is what I really want. So I can vary the amount of authentication associated, or based on the risk associated with the transaction that's being requested. And that, once again, just provides a nice higher level of security. That capability is available through the Anychain repo that you would be able to subscribe to and have that functionality enabled on your digital custodian for your activities. From here, we get into the cloud-hosted pricing. From a cloud-hosted standpoint, there's 2 ways that we could go. One is kind of a vanilla cloud offering, where you basically just get the standard capabilities. It would be akin to deploying the open source project for yourself, but you just don't have to worry about the complexity. And then the pro version is Anychain hosting everything, plus all of our bells and whistles and additional services. And when I talk about premium services, there are certain premium services that are kind of somewhat simple, but at the same time provide a fair amount of value add. And I'll give you a great example. Contacts. If I want to send Bitcoin to Stephen, I need to get his public key. Have you ever looked at a public key? Have you ever tried to type in a public key? That ends up being a very error-prone process. And when you click send to send that crypto, if you've got it wrong, you're SOL. So by being able to provide a contact list that's living and based off of the information that Stephen wants to publish as to what his public keys are for different cryptos, and me being connected with Stephen, we can securely share those types of digital secrets and use those as part of a transaction. So this is not just a single thing where I'm managing my own digital secrets, but now I'm sharing those digital secrets with other people in a secure and safe manner. So with the Pro offering, the financial projections that we've got here in a little bit is really based off of that Pro offering. But before we get there, what we're looking to do right now is build the minimum monetizable product. So Ed and I have worked together for years. We basically have spent the last year or so designing the digital custodian. On GitHub, you can go see the design documents. And at this point, we're really ready to go, but we both are working day jobs. I've got a 9-year-old daughter at home, and my wife is a stay-at-home mom. We homeschool because my daughter needs some additional attention. And as part of that, we're looking at what can we do now to get this built. So now that the design's done, we're in the phase where we need to get some funding to be able to hire developers and be able to get that minimum monetizable product. The good news is this is not like moving Mount Everest. We're talking about a nice modular design with the ability to expand over time. So we need a handful of developers, 6 to start with, and $1 million in order to get that first version deployed. And as part of what we're doing, we're actively trying to interact and get the open source community involved, where we're hoping to get open source developers who feel as passionate as we do about making Web3 and blockchain open and accessible and safe and secure. And that hopefully will also help us speed up the project. So the projections that we've done are relatively conservative. If we look at places like Coinbase or Binance or other kind of crypto centralized exchanges or even decentralized exchanges, I think Coinbase is probably the most popular example. Coinbase has 70 to 80 million users plus. Active users, they've got about 6.6 million that actively trade on a monthly basis, at least one trade per month. So for us, after we've got that minimum monetizable product ready to go, we're really looking at targeting just getting 20,000 users per month for the first few quarters. And after that, basically going up to 100,000 users per month. So our financial projections are based on, after 4 years, just 1.1 million users. Now, that's conservative. We think there's much greater potential upside. When you look at the overall industry, crypto now has more than $2 trillion in value that's been created, and that keeps growing. And you've got a population of nearly 4 billion people worldwide that use modern smartphones that have the capacity, at least, to potentially leverage something like this. So there's obviously some nice growth trajectory. What we're looking at in terms of projections, the 1.1 million after 4 years that we've identified, that really is based off of the Pro tier subscription level. So we haven't even tried to model out all of the other kind of permutations. We think we can get 1 million plus users on that Pro tier. And what that essentially means, and you can see from the green, basically after the first 2 quarters of customer adoption, we can go into the green. And after that, at the end of 4 years, we're looking at a little over a $20 million profit per quarter, basically just providing those core services for hosted Anychain Pro customers. As part of this, we also think we'll be able to see some economies of scale, and there will be other monetization options. And to give you a little context there, one of the initial goals that Ed and I had, and we still have, but we've kind of scaled back a little bit, is right now we're tackling the custody and how do I control these digital assets problem. But on top of that, once you've done that, now how can I actually expand on it? How can I become my own Patreon, where if I'm a digital creator, how can I actually monetize digital content that I come up with? And there's a whole additional set of kind of services that we plan on deploying in the Anychain cloud to make it easy for people to monetize what they're doing, but not require a third-party service provider. Basically do a crypto-to-crypto transaction for podcast subscriptions, for website subscriptions, for purchasing digital goods, any of those types of things, or even eventually getting into the real world and payments for real goods and so forth. But something that you own and control and that you have complete transparency on in terms of what's being done, and no one else is going to be able to tell you what you can or can't do with it. So, as I mentioned before, what we're looking for is a $1 million seed round to start with. We're also looking for foundation grants from different blockchain foundations to see if they'll help us accelerate what we're doing. We are on angel lists in terms of looking for angel funding. So if you go to bit.ly/Anychain, That is a link to the AngelList document hub that we've got set up. And we also are actively looking for those partnerships with blockchain and centralized exchanges and other types of crypto organizations, because our goal is to make Web3 and blockchain simple, secure, and accessible for anyone from their phone, allow you to connect, communicate, and transact with who you want, when you want, on your terms. And that's really what we're after. So I've got plenty more that I can talk about. There's certainly lots of details, but that's kind of the high-level overview. I'm happy to take any questions, but certainly appreciate the time. Any questions?
You mentioned two things, a blockchain or Bitcoin Foundation and an angel. Would you explain what those are?
Sure. So in the blockchain community or Web3, a lot of organizations have set up foundations to promote their particular blockchain. So there's a Bitcoin Foundation that will provide grants to projects that will help drive Bitcoin adoption. There's an Ethereum Foundation that will help drive adoption of Ethereum. So they'll give out grants to projects. They'll say, here's $50,000 to help you develop your next widget, or whatever the blockchain might be. So those are part of that is part of the avenue that we're going down to try to get some money, because those foundation grants really don't come with any strings. It's essentially free money if we can get it. From the AngelList perspective, at this point, what we're looking for are $1 million, so maybe $50,000 from 20 people like yourself. And with AngelList, we're basically using AngelList Stack. That does our cap table. It also provides our banking and kind of legal, and it provides a nice centralized location for us to be able to manage kind of the startup business, if you will, and provide transparency to the investors. So with AngelList, what we're doing is a safe round. So we're looking at a $10 million valuation cap for the Series A. So we're seed now, $10 million valuation cap for the Series A with a 20% discount for angel investors. And obviously our goal is to look at a greater than a $10 million valuation once we go to the Series A, but we'll have to let our work prove that out. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions?
Al, that was phenomenal.
Thank you.